I just got back from a job I had in Alaska about 2 months ago. I figure it makes a good story, even though it scared the shit out of me at the time. Be me. Working as a radio technician. Moving across the country semi-regularly to fill jobs. Get a contract to work at an undermanned radio station in Alaska. The flight is paid for and there is supplies on site. There was a room for lodging, otherwise I'd have to pay for a hotel in the nearby town which was a few miles away. I already didn't like the sound of a radio station in the Alaskan wilderness miles from any civilization with less than enough workers. Despite this, I accepted the contract because it paid more than any job I'd taken before, and not having to pay for a hotel and for food was a plus. I had been instructed to take a gun with me on the trip, preferably a rifle that shot a large caliber. I ended up taking my Marlin 336W in 30-30 Winchester and taking an old shitty .22 I had with me for plinking. For your sake as a reader and to shorten this story by about 3,000 words, I won't go into boarding the plane, getting the guns registered for travel, or establishing residency in Alaska. We land in Fairbanks. The radio station itself was in the middle of nowhere. They greatly underplayed how isolated this place was. It's southeast of Fairbanks, tucked in between the lower part of Donnelly Dome and the Macomb Plateau. The landscape is very hilly, mountainous and rough. Most of all though, it's cold as hell. Drive just over 2 hours and 107 miles from Fairbanks to Fort Greely. Charter a AS-350 Airbus helicopter to take me and my luggage to the closest inhabited area to the radio station. Hike with a local guide about 10 miles across tough and snowy terrain to the radio station. Guide stays there for the evening because a storm is setting in. While I got situated there, the guide, other staff, and I got acquainted. There was Kevin, the groundskeeper janitor, who had grown up nearby in Delta Junction. He was 17 and was going off to college soon. Apparently this was one reason the place was undermanned. The pay was over minimum wage, and beside from the technicians all the jobs were entry level. Kids would work there during the summer and leave when they went to college. There was the guide, whose name I didn't catch but a few of the others seemed to be familiar with. He was 30ish and was one of 8 or so local mountaineering hiking guides. There was also Nathan, a 20-year-old guy saving up to move to Anchorage with his girlfriend. He was the other radio technician. There was supposed to be another employee, but they stopped showing up about a month prior to my arrival. Put my stuff in the lodging room. Go out to talk with the others and get a bite to eat. Enter the main room. Notice that the guide is gone. Hey, where did the guide go? Nathan looked over to me. Oh, he decided to leave since it was getting late. You just let him go? During a storm? He insisted. Said something about having to get home as soon as he could. I'm sure he's fine, he's a guide. He knows these mountains better than the bears do. I wasn't totally okay with this, but I decided Nathan was right and to not make an argument out of it. It bugged me from the beginning that a guide as knowledgeable as he was to just up and leave in a hurry during a storm. The bad news came about a week later. I had been doing my job as I normally would anywhere else, just with heavier clothing and occasional trips outside to restart the heater located in a mini shed near the station. The bad news, as you might guess, was about the guide. He had been found half a mile from the start of the trail leading up to the station. He had been partially eaten, but it was unclear by what or how exactly he died. This spooked us enough that Kevin asked me and Nathan to teach him how to load, fire and maintain a gun just in case. We spent a few evenings going over basics. I let him carry around my shitty .22 as well. We all started carrying guns with us when we had to go outside and just around the station in general. Nathan had brought his 20-gauge M2 Benelli. It didn't completely ease the tension, but it made us feel safer. We got faxed a document saying that an officer would come up to talk with us about the guide's death. A week passed. Then another. Then another. Repeating this process, it had eventually been 4 weeks, and some days since the officer was supposed to be here. We weren't supposed to use the radio equipment for anything besides broadcasting the intended content, but we figured this was important enough to bend the rules. We got in contact with a local police station. Apparently they couldn't locate a guide to assist an officer up to the station. They had sent one officer, but he hadn't reported back. They said that a blizzard was moving in and would be here within days. We told them what we knew about the guide before his death over the radio. They instructed us to stay put and wait out the storm. They told us to keep an open channel with them for as long as possible. 2 days pass, and around 2:30 in the morning we lose contact with the police station. I work until 10 a.m. trying to get in contact with them. No luck. Kevin uses his ancient Nokia brick to call a local town's municipal center. His reception is shit. Every other call results in the call cannot be completed as dialed message. Get in contact with local government workers. Ask them to get into contact with the police station and let them know we're fine. Also ask them to get into contact with the contracting company. Nathan was ready to jump ship, and to be honest I was too. For about 3 days we were stuck like that. Not able to broadcast. Little contact with the outside world. I remember the day that we got the message like it was mere hours ago to this day. I had been trying to get some sleep during the storm, since we couldn't do our normal duties anyway. I was shaken awake by Nathan, who told me to get up and come with him. When I finally came to my senses I saw why he was so worried. The power is off. Not just the heat, the power. I get up and come into the main room where Kevin is sitting, wrapped in 2 heavy blankets and a puffy jacket. He has the .22 on the table and visibly loaded. "What's going on?" I asked. "Power went out a few minutes ago. We heard something outside too. I loaded your rifle for you." My Marlin was sitting on the table next to a box of 30-30. "What did you hear?" "Scraping. It sounded like something was trying to claw itself inside. Probably just an animal. I'll go out and get the heater running." I went to the door with my rifle in hand. Open door. Snow falls into the doorway and the door is slammed back closed by the wind. Fuck. We decided to wait out the storm the best we could, but we had to get warmer. Nathan and Kevin tried to start a fire while I gathered blankets, jackets and any cloth or tarp I could. I found about 5 blankets in total as well as a few towels and a tarp. We huddled around the small fire, and about 4 hours later the power returned. We assumed that this meant the storm died down a little, so once again I made my way to the door with my rifle. I opened it and a bit of snow fell in, but the door wasn't blown shut immediately. I walked out, trudging through multiple feet of snow. By the time I got to the shed I was out of breath. I swung open the door to find the heater already running. Fuck. All that for nothing. I'm halfway back to the station when I feel it. That horrible sensation of being watched. I ran towards the station. As I neared the station I picked up on a horrible smell. A musky smell, like a dog's hot breath. I bumbled in the door. "What the fuck is that smell?" I asked. I slammed the door shut. "I don't smell anything." I opened the door. "It must be out here then, come smell it." "Dude, close the door, it's cold." The smell drafted into the station and cut off his sentence. Nathan and Kevin began coughing and gagging. I closed the door, thinking it would help. The air felt thick, like physically heavier than air is supposed to be. I began gagging uncontrollably. After about a minute of hell, it finally subsided as the ventilation system filtered it out. It lingered for days and never really went away entirely. We checked back with the people Kevin had called. No luck getting in contact with the contracting company. They did help us establish a connection with the police station. They said that the officer they sent up was still not back and presumed lost in the storm. We requested help to get out of there. We still had enough food and water for another 2 months. We asked about the possibility of a search and rescue team coming to get us. We only received a one-word response: unlikely. We had packed our stuff by the door and got ready to sleep for the night. That night I woke up with a harsh chill going through my body. I opened my eyes to see that there was snow everywhere. On the floor, on my bed, on me. All over the room. The door to the room was open, which I distinctly remember closing. I got up and ran out into the main room. The front door was wide open, and I noticed that one of our packs was gone. I knew it was Kevin's because his was the closest to the door. My pack, which was next to Kevin's, had a large tear down the middle. It was a rough and uneven tear about the size of a bear's paw. There was some sticky black residue on the bag as well, which smelled like rot and musk combined in a horrible symphony of odors. I slammed the door shut and turned on the lights. I went to wake up Nathan and Kevin. Nathan woke up instantly when I shook him awake, but Kevin's eyes were froze shut. We spent the morning putting hot water on his eyes and eventually got them open. He could see for the most part, but he complained of his eyes being freezing cold to the point of pain despite the rest of his body being warm, even hours after they had been open and warmed up. The next 2 days were pretty uneventful. Eventually, a team consisting of a police officer and 2 local mountaineering specialists came to pick us up. We were hesitant to tell them about the weird things that had happened to us, but eventually they inquired about our time there, and we told them. They said that they got reports like that from people working at the station fairly often. They told us that they had never really had any reason to go up there and that it was just some kids getting spooked by their own shadow, but that this was the worst it had ever been. Even after we left that place, the whole ordeal wasn't entirely over. We of course had to speak to the police about everything. Mostly about the missing people, but they wanted to know everything else as well. We ended up staying there for another month because of the police investigation and because we had technically breached our contract with the contracting company and the broadcasting company. The contractors dropped all charges and the broadcasting company settled out of court. Even after coming home, some weird things go on that are directly related to this whole thing. If I ever tell the story, whether that be online or in person, my dogs always act up if they are with me. Even when I'm not home, my neighbors, without fail, tell me that my dogs made a ton of noise. That could be a coincidence or them trying to spook me, but I guess anything is possible. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe.